break here for one session, and we have a lot of ground to cover. So I hope everyone can hear me. And I made the slides available for the odd chance that my connection will break and you lose me for a second. So you can uh, either watch the recording, because I started recording, and um, the slides are there for future references to the material. Everyone can join and leave as they want. The training is in two parts. One part is the kind of introduction to QGIS. The second part is the calculation. I will have a quick question and answer after the first part. And in the practical session, you will see that the slides are actually built up in three parts. You have a bit of theory, then the practice, and after each step, there will be again a question and answer. So just raise your hand if you have a question, and we go hopefully quite quickly through it. We have half an hour. It will be tight, so hang on and let's do this. So that's what I said. A quick outline here. So an introduction, the problem statement, high-level overview of the steps taken, and the process and the detailed steps on how to do the calculation.
Gijs, I can't see your slide right now.
Oh, because I stopped sharing. Thanks. Share. Is that better?
Much better, thank you.
No worries. Yeah, because I have to switch from applications. I keep it in not in. Oh no, I have to present. Okay, let's do that. Right. So problem statement, workflow, and the detailed steps. I don't know who has QGIS installed, but QGIS is actually a platform. So it is software, but it's more a platform, and it's a geographical information system management, or a geographical information system and then management. It manages things as well, because it has its own functionalities, but it is all built on Python and it is open source, so people can contribute to it. And the main two contributors to the functionality are Grass, that's the grassy icon here, and Saga. Saga is an environmental program. And I won't go into them. I will quickly show them later on. And to go a little bit quick over this first part, so you have the link to install it if you haven't done it. There is downloads for Windows and for Mac, and hopefully the self-executables are easy to follow and you won't have any problems installing software. The interface, so when you have installed it, you will get an icon like this, and then when you go through it, you have a kind of window that looks like this. What is in there? The standard items like your menu bar, your toolbar, and toolbox. I will go over the toolbox in a bit more detail. Plugins, they're important. I will kind of highlight the importance as well. A file browser and a table of content. The file browser allows you to bring things into your table of content, and when it is in the table of content, you can either look at it as a table view when it is tabulary data, or as a map view, and that is the central part of the screen is a map. The menus, there are a lot of menus, and I'm not going through them all. I just put them here for future references, where the last one is, of course, the most important one, because that's where you find the documentations and your manuals. Read them, it's important. The toolbox is up here. This thing is changing all the time, depending on what kind of settings you have and what kind of view you want to take and what kind of tools you are want to use regularly. So I'm not going to cover that. Processing is your friend, because that holds the toolbox, which holds all the tools that you might want to use, and most importantly, the history of all the tools that you have executed. So if you're thought, okay, I was using this, let's say 2 weeks ago, and I did this kind of calculation, but I can't remember what kind of calculation that was, then you can search back on time and find the process that you were running at that time and the rest of your steps, because it is recorded. and that's the toolbar or the toolbox. The ones in the green icon are QGIS native tools written in Python, which can be modified by yourself. And the GDO, GROS, and Saga additional platforms that I loaded into my installation. So that's something that you have to choose in the beginning of the installation, which ones would you like to use. And my recommendation is to use at least GROS and Saga, because you will get an awful lot of extra tools when you install those two packages. And like I said, same as with the history, in your search there, you can find the tools you were looking for or you think that are appropriate for your process. And I will show that in the live demo later, how that works. The plugins, under the plugins, you will find a little menu with only two items, the manage and install plugins and the Python console. Python console will bring up a Python screen where you can run your own tools that most likely are built on the GDO libraries, but you can process everything that you want if it is not covered in the other tools yourself. And you can install other tools that are built by others by using the plugin install. So here you can see what I have installed at the moment. And you can, like in the Anaconda management system, you can see what is not installed and even install from zip if someone writes a tool, puts it in GitHub, says this is my tool, works in QGIS, install or unpack, and then use the install from zip directly on your machine to exchange different codes with other collaborators. Works perfectly fine. Now, any questions so far? No. Okay, excellent. The reason that I'm doing this training is that in task 5, we had a kind of problem statement, how far is something from something? And QGIS gives a good method of doing this. So in this case, we are looking at from communities to hospitals, so where people live and where people get healthcare. But how do we going to solve this problem? By first finding out where people live and where do they get healthcare. And this is a point to point question. Sorry. And what kind of data do we have? We have the point locations by, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the Harvard University who did the collection
Yes,
of those?
that's correct.
And the community boundaries, which are maintained by an organization called Global Administrative Boundaries, or GAdmin. I will have links to those later on. And for that, we need a conversion, because the communities are still in polygons, and we need a point-to-point relation. So we are going to do a conversion in this training as well. And what do we want? We want to have the connection lines and the distance from the hospital to the community, the nearest hospital to the community. So for that, we need two other tools, the hub lines and the joins. And to make the joins work, we need to do some table operations. So I will show that as well. First, so the hospitals. And this is a slide, and that's what I said how it is going to work. So we have here at the left side the problem statement, at the right side the GIS operations, and in the next slide, how are we going to do it? And now I have to switch to, how do I do that? There. So now we are in my QGIS environment, and we are looking at the hospitals. And to find the hospitals, we got from the download an Excel sheet, and in the Excel sheet I made a country, or in the Excel file there is a tab now called country, and that looks like this. So we have the whole data set and the country data set, which is a subset of all Africa hospitals collected by Harvard. I could have loaded them all in directly, but just for processing sake, I didn't, and I wanted to do some tests, so I made a subset for the countries. So back in QGIS, we see that country.
Gijs, can I just very quickly add something?
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, just for the others who might not have followed the task from the beginning. So Gijs decided, and I think it's a really good idea to focus on one very small country, and Burundi is one of the smallest countries. So that's why now this is all going to be on Burundi. And that hospital data set, that was for public hospitals in sub-Saharan Africa. So a larger number of countries, just to add.
Thank you. Excellent. Yeah. So now we I brought the country table that we saw in the Excel workbook to the table of contents, and we see when we open it as a table that we have exactly what the same information as we had in Excel. And those two columns, the latitude and the longitude, are the coordinates of the hospital. And those ones we want to have on the map. So how are we going to do that? There is one way, and that is to bring it in by add layer and add delimited text layer. That's one way. But unfortunately, there is a little bit of mix up in the decoding and the encoding of the file, so this won't work. Everything is seen as characters, while we want to have the decimals for the coordinates. So what we can do is we can follow what is in the, that is, see, can I, that works easier. Yes, we want to create the point layer from a table. That's what we want to do. So in here, we can type in point and table, and then it finds create point layer from table. It finds the table, and we have to select the X field and the Y field. We could add a Z field, but we don't. We could add an M field, but we don't. We have here a projection. It picks up the right projection. I'm not going into projection. That's a whole different story. But it does the right thing, and that is where we want to have it, in that projection, and we save it as a file. Up. Training, and this is hospitals. Save and run and close. Now we see all the hospitals on the screen. So, and that means that we can work with them in a geographical information system, because previously it was just a table. Now we have the location attribute added to the table. So that's task one done. Next task is that we want to do something with those communities. And here's the link to a very important site, which holds all kind of administrative data. And looking at the time, I don't have the time to go into that, but explore that site on your own leisure. Okay, so that is that. Then I downloaded the files already there in here, and we are interested in the admin 3 layers. So we bring them in. And we see that we have a whole bunch of polygons now. But we can't find the distance from the community to the hospital, because we need a point for that. And to do that, if we go back to the statement here, we have the boundaries extracted, and now we want to do the point conversion. So we follow the wizard from QGIS under vector, in your geometry tools, you have the centroid. It picks up the polygon boundary, and we can just save that to a file. So we have hospitals here already, and then we say community. Save. And come on. Run. Close. So now we have two sets of points. We have the hospitals and all the communes, but we still don't have the distance from one to the other. And to do that, we need, so that's the polygon file that's done. So we need an join operation. So any questions so far about the operations done? No? Okay, cool. For a join to work, we need an indentifier. And the indentifier in the community layer, we see that there are unique numbers in the table. So we could use the ID3, which is like a running number from 1 to 2,500. But if we look at the hospitals, the one that we just imported, we have 50 hospitals, but we don't have an unique indentifier. So first thing that we have to do here is to create an indentifier. Now, if I go back to my presentation, it shows how we are going to do that. So we have that unique indentifier identified in the table. That was the ID_3 field, and in the hospitals we don't. So that's how two views of the table. It's important to notice the toggling of the editing, because that's how your normal table looks like. But if you toggle the editing, you see that you have more options enabled. And we are interested in the calculate field. So this one is available when you have your table open, or like this, and you want to do something on a field. But if you're, so like we want to create a new field, we must have the editing toggled on. And I will show this in the in QGIS. So we are going to make a new field called hospital indentifier, and not as a virtual field, because we want to have it as a permanent field, because we want to operate on that field later on. This is the function that we are going to use in the expression box, and when we are done and everything works fine, then we can create a new field with an indentifier which we can use in our joining. So this is the table that I was talking about, the hospitals, and not yet the hospital ID. So click toggle on, go to the field calculator, create a new field. Don't click that field. Say that it has to be with this name, row number, and +1. Row number will start with 0. I don't want to have a hospital with a 0. I want to have it with a 1, so that's why it is +1. And that is okay. Actually, sorry about that. Normally it is, but now it is not. Okay. So that update existing field, that better. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on. So now we have two unique indentifiers. We have the hospital as an indentifier, and we have, that's my and the communities with a unique identifier. Perfect. So where are we in the presentation? So we did that. The next step is that we want to join those points because we have identified them, we can find them back on the map, but we don't know yet where they are, and that's where distance to nearest is very handy, or one of the tools we can use to do this. And again, we go in here and we say nearest, distance to nearest hub. We also have distance to nearest line, but we don't have lines. We have points. So what we do here is a source point and the hub point. So we want to go from our communities to the hospitals. And we want to have the identifier that we just created up there. And also we want to do that in meters. And we create not a temporary file because we want to use it. We create a save file. So that is community distance. Save. And run. And close. So what happened here is that we have now a new layer, a new point file, and in that point file we find that we have our hub name and our hub distance. So for each individual community, we know actually where we are. So in principle, I could stop the training here because we have done exactly what we wanted to do. We calculated the distance from an hospital to a community, but that's not very informative yet. We also want to have those lines. So that's the last step. That's the spatial join. We just did that, and this is the last part, like how we're going to visualize the relationship. And again, we have a tool, distance to nearest hub, and again we have a wizard that is guiding us through the whole process of how that looks like. And at the end, we will get this. This is the results that we want to see. So we went from the points with their unique numbers. We want to see those lines, and then we can do the further analysis when we have all the files together. So we go back to QGIS. How does that work? That is that was the hub. Join by lines, hub lines. So we need the community distance, but wait a minute, no, this is the hospital layer and it's hospital field. This is your source, and your community distance is your target. And the tool made this hub name. We add that, and this is when you are on a very large area. You want to perhaps show what you see when you are going on an airplane and you see the travel distances over the globe, like the more nicely curved lines. That's when that's what you could do when you want to show those curved lines. But we are in Burundi, very small country, so we don't need those lines. We can work with straight lines. And run again. Close. And ta-da! We have our distance calculation visualized by lines. And I'm very sorry about the rush on this, but I managed to do this in 25 minutes, and there is now even time for some questions and answers.
Clap, clap, applause. Well done. Thank you. I do have a question.
Sure.
You showed this other picture with the coloring, where then like a circle around the hospitals, the closest circle was blue, and then there was green, and then there was yellow. Does that just show like the blue would be an acceptable distance, And then the next color kind of so, and the next color would be like, this is not okay. These people need more hospitals. Or
That's something you could do from that. So I have 5 minutes. I could. Okay, yes, I have 5 minutes. I can't upgrade. I can quickly show that because that works with the that is a link between the point that we calculated, like this point. So in this point we have the distance, and the point relates to the area, but in the area, of course, we don't have the distance yet, so we can't do that, but we can use this ID3 to join the points, and then you can use it. So if you go to properties, joins, add join layer is the community distance. That's the one we want, and we have that ID3. That is the unique identifier for each polygon, and we have ID3. So we are linking ID3 from the community distance layer to the ID3 field in our boundary layer here. And if we say OK, and if we say OK, then in this table, we have now the distances added to the base table of the boundaries. Back to properties, symbology, graduated colors, value on my hub distance. Is it that? Yes, it is. Oh, not graduated. That my symbology color ramp. Let's we want to do something. Okay, classify. Okay, now we have that. We can say pretty breaks, just to make it more human readable. We have the pretty breaks, and here we find inverted colors. So now the blue tones are the areas that are closest to the communities closest to the hospital, and red tones are the ones that are further away. So you say okay, and there you have your circles that I showed earlier.
Okay, super. Not that I can replicate this, but I could follow, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I can add the last steps in the slide deck. I just had not enough time to prepare the last step because I think 24 hours ago we had our first meeting about this, and now we have a slide deck. So I didn't have the time.
That's right. No, it's super. It's really good.
Any other questions? I hope I didn't lose anyone in the process.
I do have one quick more question, if nobody else has a question. We talked yesterday, yes, there was a smaller meeting about this, and you said it's important for the people who have a Windows machine to download QGIS with GRASS. And I saw when you showed so you have QGIS with GRASS, but I saw when you showed the plugins that GRASS, it showed GRASS 7. And that was not installed. So is that something different, or what is that exactly?
Yes. So you mean
if you go in the plugins tab at the top of your QGIS, at the very top on the left.
Yes. Yeah, I know. But you're talking about those. Why is this here, and why it is not shown in here?
Yeah, exactly.
Because there are more functionalities in. So now I'm enabling it, and yeah, I can minimize. So also I have to restart, but as you can see that it came with grass, but with unlimited options. Now, when I'm installing the full grass 7, so I have the basic functionalities are available, and QGIS says, okay, these are the most common modules that I think people will need, and I include them when you download QGIS and install, or yeah, when you download and install QGIS, because they are the most common ones. Now, if you want to do something more advanced, or when you want to really go to the native grass software, then you have to install the plugin, and then more raster operations are being made available to you.
Okay, I understand. Okay, thanks.
No worries.
Hi.
Yes.
Hey, thank you. It's very impressive, and thanks for your effort in preparing it. I do have a question. So, it looks like to me, in the layers. So basically, I think my question is like, what can we actually put in as an input for the layers? So you show us, as long as the data have got some longitudinal or latitude data, it should automatically be recognized by the program. I'm trying to understand what can be put in as an input. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that depends. So here we went from an Excel spreadsheet, which is just tabulary data. And before you can put anything on a map, you need to know the coordinate system in what it is. So you need to know in what kind of format are my coordinates. There are kind of 3 main groups of coordinate systems. Then you have a whole bunch of coordinate projection systems. So you have coordinates that can come into more or less three different forms. And then you have, I think, hundreds of different ways to project that. And you have to guide the program. So if it is just tabulary data, then it should recognize lat long, but then because this tabulary data doesn't have the other information, so you have to guide it through a wizard, as I did.
I see. So I'm asking because I'm just thinking, can I actually like with what you've done, and then can I throw in another things like a raster image or something like that, or do I need to convert a raster image into a data frame file that would contain those information?
No. If you have a raster image, so if you're, I don't have any,
okay.
but you can go add layer, and that's what I meant.
I see.
When it is a vector layer, it could be a shapefile. If the boundaries, like I didn't have to do anything with those layers, because QGIS already recognizes this as valid shapefiles, so I can bring them directly in. If I would go to my own project, do I have something? Do I have something? Yeah, it is not really appropriate, but let me see if I have anything. No, but I have perhaps. Basement, climate, why not? Data, temp, dummy grid, historic. Okay, so this is in grid. And if it works, then it should be. I should be able to bring that one in. Yes, there's already here. So zoom to the layer. We are in Rwanda, just a little bit higher. And if I change to single and shadow color, apply. Okay. Why are you not showing minimum 1? Apply. Okay. I was just playing around with this one, so it's not an valid data source. But you can see that it automatically picked up things that are in that coordinate system, in that format that QGIS understands it. I have less than a minute on this presentation, so I'm more than happy to quickly launch another Zoom if people are interested in continuing the discussion.
I'm going to have to leave, unfortunately.
Okay.
Thanks again very much.
No worries, no worries. My pleasure.
Yeah, same here. Sorry about that, but it's very helpful. If I come across any questions, I will ask you in Slack maybe. But it's very helpful.